Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Eddie Marcus again, spokesman and advocate of basic human rights for all people. I've been on this mission for quite some time, ladies and gentlemen, and I think it is about time that I get off this path. It is time that I kind of bring something to you that perhaps you should need to know. I was thinking about a subject matter for this particular presentation, and I came up with things like Washington is the throne of Satan. Washington, when I say Washington, I'm talking about the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. All those people who supposedly have something to do with our lives as Americans. We have said leadership. We put them up there as being ones to lead us and guide us, as opposed to ones who are put there to do what we say do. Well, some of us say we put them there to do what we say do because the founding fathers came up with a constitution that want to apply it to all the generations. And I must say to you that that Constitution that was applied back in the day of the founding is not representative of all times forward. There is a time for change, and it's been time for change, but it has never, as far as I can see, changed for the better. Now, we have seen things that have happened in our country that has done everything to take away even those little protections that the Constitution was supposed to give in the beginning. I also came up with a title that says, "Give me liberty or give me death." And I realize that one man's liberty is another man's prison. So I'm not speaking for all men in that regards, and that one I'm speaking of myself. Another subject matter I came up with is sheep or God. And that refers to people, individuals. Are you as an individual, are you as a group striving to be a sheep, which means you will do whatever you're told to do, go wherever you're led. You can be led by humans or dogs or anything that stands up. Or be led by God, the Spirit of God. Now, that one is a good one for me. I like to be led by the Spirit of God. I am, thus far, led by the Spirit of God. I was listening to some educational stuff this morning and came across Jim Beck and Judge Politano. And I heard some very interesting things. And people do say some interesting things as it applies to them. The judge was very, very liberal as far as I can tell. He seems to have been able to concern himself about the protection of all the people. And some others, you know how things go. But the bottom line is what I have been trying to say for all of these years is that we can do a group thing, possibly, but it's basically an individual thing. Where you are as an individual tell you which way you will go. And some of the ways that people have identified as going, one might call it a libertarian. Now, me, myself, I don't spend too much time trying to figure out what a libertarian is. Some people say it's representative of the Tea Party or something. But I don't figure trying to determine what that is for a presentation to you. Some people say, well, we talk about socialists. And everybody who goes to school got some kind of education, think about socialists, and they got some idea about what socialism is. I think it's misconstrued, but nevertheless, they have it. There's another one they call communism. And most of you, when you think about communism, you think about Russia or China or something like that. You think about the oppressiveness of the people. And so you and I, for one reason or another, don't aspire to hold to that. And yet there are things called democratic capitalism. And when we speak about capitalism, we're basically talking about money, finances, wealth. And everybody is greedy. And everybody wants that wealth. And while we have used that to say that America and its capitalist system is the greatest nation on the face of the earth, if you just pay attention to some things that have happened over the last couple of administrations in Washington, the devil's throne, we have seen some things that happen that would take away all of the basic, what we call liberties that had been given. Starting, I want to just focus, Bill Clinton, all of the, look, I think, but since President Kennedy, everybody's been stroking, trying to see what they can rip off. Because if they can rip something off from you, they were getting rewarded for it. We have to understand now that it is not basically the government, this government, that is running this country. It is the ideologies that are coming from people outside of this government. People who have decided that they were going to usurp all the power on the face of the earth. Gradually, though it might require, they don't mind taking years and years and years, because they're going to keep everything in the bloodline. They're going to marry each other, sisters and brothers and mothers and sons and fathers and daughters, to keep it in the bloodline. And they will do anything to maintain that. But the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, for me is this. People got a right to believe what they want to believe. And no one should take away that right except truth. When it comes down to me, and I think about people who put even Judge Napolitano, he says something about the rights that you have, the rights that the individual have, the rights that coming from God, or having the same rights that God has, because God has made you and given you these rights, or being one with God signifies that the rights that God has, you got them too, because you were made by God and of God, and all that, it's beautiful. I can't take away anything from that. But at the same time, every other little group got something that's specific to them that leaves others out. The Libertarians, the Green Party, all of these third party would-bes, and the main party is the same thing. The bottom line is that at the end of the day, regardless of any party that comes in, it ends up ending up the same way. With some people got something, some people don't have anything. People being oppressed. All of the kinds of things that you have to deal with in a society. But my focus here today is, ladies and gentlemen, having been out here 36 years, I think they say Jesus Christ lived 33 years, if he ever lived at all, according to some of you. But at the end of those 33 years, his work was done. He didn't come here to stay 60 years, 70 years. I've been here 66, headed 67. And only reason I plan to live this long, if I had some control over it, is if I could live free, if I could be joyous of this life, if I could be prosperous in this life. And that's the message for 36 years I've been carrying to the people. And having done this for 36 years, I've done it on the streets, I've done it in presentations, public presentations, I've done it at rallies, I've done it on YouTube and Facebook, I've done it on TV, cable, I've done it on radio, and every means I could access, I have championed this philosophy. And as far as I can tell, I'm not going to say no one was listening, but as far as I can put my hand on and would go to the bank, I would say one person, and that was me. And then I wouldn't try to bank all of that on me, because I'm still here 3 years past 33. And I haven't accomplished anything as far as change is concerned. And so I come this moment to say to you that I'm concerned not by the Constitution of the United States. The Constitution of the United States represented those bigots. I call them bigots of the Founding Fathers, because one would say something perhaps to the extreme right, and someone else would say something to the extreme left. And then they would try to make that together. And some things worked, some things didn't. Nevertheless, it still became the Constitution of the United States. And one thing that really gets me is the fact that black people weren't even considered as being people. And as long as the Constitution of the United States can X a person out of being human, I cannot, I will not, I choose not to give my allegiance to that particular Constitution, even though it seems by my not challenging it in my daily life that perhaps I have given in. And that could be kind of surmise from the conditions of my life today. But I want to get some clarity on that. Ladies and gentlemen, my friends, my sisters and brothers, what I say to you today is about myself. And as I said about myself, I would also offer it to you. But just an offer, not a requirement. You see, the reason that I believe in God is like Moses, who might have had questions about what he had heard about God from the people. We all might question that. But like Moses, who went up on the hill, up on the mountain, and saw the burning bush talking and heard it speaking, and it worked with him in such a way that there was no doubt that this God that he had heard people talk about was now being manifest before him, because he was seeing the miraculous power of that God. Well, I didn't see a burning bush, but I saw something and experienced something equally as truthful and commanding. I'm not going to share that with you right now. If you look at some of my other videos, you can check it out. But I just want to mention it to you that I had this kind of experience with God. So in the situation that I'm referring to, God proved to me his existence. And he did it in a way that I saw his love, I saw his power, I saw his protection. And that became a cue and a clue to me of how God would have me be to other people. And this is why I got out of the limelight of trying to struggle and challenge and I compete with the world and outdo the world for my own benefit, because the God that was revealed to me doesn't operate that way. And I realize that most people see God like that. But what I see is that there are certain things that God did that protected us from the ideologies of people who might be influenced by the devil or Satan or Lucifer or sin or evil. And that is that when God made the earth, he made the earth special. Special in that it has capabilities to do certain things, to perform certain things, to serve certain things. And then God made people, you and I, even black people, who they consider in the United States as not being people, with certain gifts and talents and aspirations and desires that, given the opportunity to use, they would apply those gifts and talents as a purpose, as a reason for being here. And they would exercise those gifts and extract collectively from these resources of the earth, seen, unseen, on the earth, above the earth, or in the earth. And they would create certain things. Now, what are those things that would be created initially that we would refer to? And I would say those things that are common amongst all people. And what are those things, some of those things that are common amongst all people? It has to do with those things that make it possible for you to continue to live. For instance, oxygen. For instance, water. God made sure that that would be available to you, and nobody would have any control over that but God. But other things he put in such a way that we, the people, can have some type of control over it. And that is food, clothing, shelter, healthcare, education. And the first one I mentioned was a job, a career, so that all of these things can be manifest in an abundance so that we, the people, can experience it, all of us. Now, I have never, ever considered it possible that any individual can claim so-called property on land. I mean, no person made land, no person can do anything with it. The only thing you can do with land is harvest it, use it to grow stuff, and live on it. And who requires that? Everybody on earth needs food that can come from the land. They need shelter that can come from material of the land. They need to live on something that's standing on land, every individual. And for somebody to claim land, then they're putting other people who perhaps need some land to live on out of that benefit of land. And so that, to me, is that's a devilish act. Now, I know a lot of people say the Constitution protects your property. Well, I ask, your property is that which God extends to you to utilize in the preservation of your life. And it becomes yours as you use it, but not yours in fact. And so with the Constitution, it protects what God does not advocate according to me. So what I am saying is that all people, these things that are common amongst us, it is the duty and the responsibility of everybody who needs and requires these certain things, food, clothing, shelter, and education, to do whatever is necessary to guarantee that these things happen to them, to each of them, that it happens for themselves. And the best way to do that is not through competing, but through cooperation. Cooperation that every human being on earth would have food, clothing, shelter, education, health care, that they'd have a job, that they could participate in the manifestation of these things. Now that to me is as clear and plain as it can get. Nobody lord over another. Your idea is no more important than a man's idea to sweep the floor. It's very important that a floor is swept. It's also important that a floor is made. It's also important that it has some place to be made. All of these things are important. A floor made in any way you want to put it that's dirty is a floor that needs to be destroyed. So everything has its place. Now all of the other stuff that comes up, and it might mean something to you. It depends upon where you come from. I came out of poverty. I came out of the suffering of this nation. And so I know what it means to suffer. The suffering that I speak of, the suffering that so many other people experience every day, will say to others that this is nothing that you want to endure. Now, you might have been riding high on the hog. You might have been riding as a billionaire, millionaire, whatever you want to call yourself. But that poor man down there knows the difference between being poor and being wealthy. He also knows that the stuff that you got saved up in a barn, you don't use. It's just sitting there for time. So you really can't use any more than anyone else. So what I'm saying to everybody is this. Whatever your God Spirit say to you, live it. Just live it. Because I might be wrong if I suggest that you do what I do. I know you were wrong when you suggest that I do what you do. So I'm just saying live. And this is what I am saying. I don't want to hurt this plan of mine that I have, that I've been given. I want every last one of you to live free. I want every last one of you to be prosperous. I want to be free from what those in Washington, the throne of the Satan, the throne of the devil has done with this Patriot Act. When you think about George Bush, if you can't think of George Bush too good, go back and look on YouTube or Facebook and look at some of those pictures and videos of George Bush making statements about our condition. He seems like he was making fun of the people, not just American people, but all people. And look at those who were in his circle. They seemed like they were doing the same things. And for some strange reason, somebody hoped that when a black man became president, that he would be the answer to all prayers. And it seems as though the black man was just chosen to be put there so the people can hope in him, while he had been ordered to carry forward the same program that his predecessor had started or had continued. And this is what's going on today. So I say, I can't challenge that. I can't make that change for the world, even though I might think it's the best thing. But I can make a change for me in that I do not allow it to affect me in the way it was designed. In other words, what I'm saying is this: live my life freely. Do what I can to live and advocate as I am advocating. Do nothing to hurt anyone, but to add to their blessings, if at all possible. And so be able to say that I am a free man and that I will stay free. To say that this liberty I claim, or I claim death. I, for years and years and years, have not wanted to just die, even though I was supposed to have died several times years and years and years ago, had it not been for God. And so I'm here. So the life I live truly, it's selfish for me to say that I'm living it for myself when I'm not supposed to even have it now. So the life I live should represent the power that I give authority for my life. And that would be what I'm saying I would do for myself. I, ladies and gentlemen, don't like bondage. I don't like for somebody giving me a fine, telling me that I got to pay this fine when they did nothing to put any money in my pocket. I don't want anyone telling me what I got to do when all they're doing is trying to control me but not helping me. That's a sheep. So what I'm saying, henceforth and forevermore, I don't believe in, why should I pay a ticket for parking? Why? I know you realize, well, we need these fees. We got to do these roads and things. We don't need that money. We do not need one copper penny. We do not need one copper covered dime, which whatever they got over it, or one paper dollar. Nor do we need gold, silver, diamonds, or any of those other things we call precious metals to do what has to be done. All we need is a will to utilize the resources that has been provided for the benefit of all of us. And to me, if we can't do it for all of us, then anybody that goes for anything separate than all of us is walking a blind track. And so I don't want to walk that blind track. I'm not going to walk that blind track. I'm making a commitment to you today that I'm going to start living my life free. And I welcome death. I welcome it. And in fact, I'm looking forward to it every day. I know freedom means the ability to be ready to die. So I'm ready to die. I'm looking forward every day to be glad to breathe the air, to walk the streets, to look at every man without dissension, look at every man with joy and peace in my hand, comfortable knowing that I am who I am, a son of the Almighty God, and the living that I live is an